Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, Teacher Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host, we got paleoclimatologist in the house tonight. And yes, that is a real job. Mr. James O'Reilly's here with us.
Is it a real job though?
Listen,
Is it?
Roland Emmerich would never lie to me. That man's word is as good as gospel to me. So if he says that's a job, I buy it.
It sounds so silly. Like I guess that you paleo, like you study the climate from back when dinosaurs were around. The only thing I know about paleo is that paleontologists study dinosaurs, right?
I don't know. I'll have to. I was
That
a
close.
paleo mixologist in my olden days. That's why I study the ways of making the drink.
You studied what drinks cavemen drank. It's a real easy job. You
It's
just do
just
like
yeah,
water.
it was a real tough one. Yeah, I was like, I think they've got water and water. It was a wild time. Great studies. Obviously, there wasn't much to major in, so I had to switch up the major after a while. But it was a good week at school. And each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
We're watching The Day After Tomorrow tonight.
It's yes, tonight. I watched it the day before yesterday, but it's the day after tomorrow of us watching it tonight.
I watched it today, and if all goes well, I'll completely forget about it by the day after tomorrow.
Whatever you want to call it, whatever day you watched it. We're doing the 2004 disaster film, directed by Roland Emmerich, from a screenplay by him and Jeffrey Nachmanoff, I believe is how you pronounce that. I'm sorry, Jeff, if I got that
That's,
wrong for you. And
that
starring
sounds
Dennis
like the
Quaid.
kind of name you would like prank call a bar with. like,
Like, hey,
like I'm pretty sure Bart did that one on an
yeah,
episode of The Simpsons one time.
I'm Jeffrey Nachmanoff. Like, what do you want to do to that man? Like, no, 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 no. And the movie stars our quintessential heroes, Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal, and Emmy Rossum. Now, we got the lovely DVD cover here, Jim. We're going to bust it out and we're going to look right there on the back here for our lovely log line, right below some great blurbs. It's been a minute since we've got good blurbs on the DVD cover,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it sure has.
Day After Tomorrow, bring in the heat. They say Joel Siegel from Good Morning America, wanna ride. Gene Shalit from The Today Show, totally cool. And Jim Ferguson from ABC TV, spectacular.
I think they were all just talking about the limo they took to the premiere.
They're
He's like,
like,
the AC works great. It was totally cool.
they're like, they got drinks in here. What a ride!
Yeah.
We got the lovely log line on the back here, and it reads: In this pulse pounding action thriller, global warming triggers the onset of a new ice age. As tornadoes flatten Los Angeles and a tidal wave engulfs New York City, the entire northern hemisphere begins to freeze solid. Now, paleoclimatologist Jack Hall, his son Sam, and a small band of survivors must ride out the growing superstorm and stay alive. Love how they threw in the whole honorific of paleoclimatologist in the log line too, because that's a big word for most Americans to be reading. They'd be
Yeah.
like, "What? He's a what now? He's a
It is kind of a good pharmacist.
paleoscientologist." But that's our lovely log line right there. Now, Jim, I believe you said this is a first time full watch for you, right? You said you hadn't seen this entire movie.
Yeah, upon further review, I don't think I've seen any of this movie before this time, and I am like vaguely familiar with it was about him like walking through the snow to get to New York,
He does.
but
He
I'd never
does
actually seen any of the movie.
the big walking movie. Not since the Lord of the Rings have we gotten such a good walking movie, and we were it was a big deficit in the last few months. We needed a good walking movie. Roland
Yeah.
Emmerich was like, "Got you." So he
Not
busted out
not a
again.
lot of walking, as it turns out, in the movie.
Really, only like a small portion of it is walking. They really misled in the trailers there. Now, actually, Jim, from my memory, it's really a moment of truth because we've got the ticket stub, and the question is Big Jim's name written on the back of this ticket stub as attending?
There's no shot, dude. There's no shot.
Drum roll, please. Drum roll, please. We go to the back. We got Ryan at the top of the charts, and what is that underneath him? Brendan.
Okay, yeah, I was like, dude,
Ah,
I've never seen
oh,
this movie before. There's no way.
there you go. You lucked out this week, Jim. You did not go see the day after tomorrow with us. It was a trio. We went on it. Nice. Yeah. Big swing and a miss there. Jimbo missed out on a big 2004 movie right there. We went May 28th, 2004 to the 4 p.m. show. And I don't have any particular great memory of going to the theater to see this movie. I just remember that we did see it. I remember enjoying this movie. I was with Joel Siegel back then, Jim. This was what a ride.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see like what would you have given it out of five back then?
Back then I couldn't tell you. I think probably back then I really did enjoy this movie. So if I had to guess, like young TJ probably was like a 4-star kind of guy.
Okay,
And
okay.
will that hold up this time? I don't know. No spoilers.
Time
We
will
we
tell.
we got time will tell when we dive into it if it's gonna hold on to that 4-star, 14-year-old rating. But I was in on this movie. I was a big fan. I watched this a bunch when it came out. Also, I showed this to Heather when she started getting into disaster movies. So this is a movie I've watched not a hell of a lot. Like it's not one that I'll return to every couple of years, but I've seen it enough to be able to explain the majority of the movie. Like I could go through the movie if somebody like out of nowhere, like months from now, was like, "Yo, explain Day After Tomorrow for me." I'd be like, "I got you, dude."
Okay,
I've
okay.
seen it enough there. So it sat in the wheelhouse for long enough there. So it was a core memory of the 2004 TJ experience when he was going to the theater. And for a decent amount of people, Jim, because this movie very not only was it a ride in the limo to go to the screening, was it a ride going to see it in the theaters? This movie was a ride at the box office. This movie tallied numbers. So let's cue it up. Let's dive into some box office numbers.
Numbers, dates, and numbers, numbers, dates, array, dates, numbers. Show me the money.
All right. The day after tomorrow. I'm just gonna check really quick to make sure it wasn't a 5 day.
Was this we're right around your favorite time, Jim? Memorial Day
Yeah.
weekend? Like, is this
As I've
Memorial Day
learned,
weekend?
the end of May is Memorial Day weekend. And this is Memorial Day weekend.
Oh ho,
Memorial Day weekend will be
ho.
Monday, May 31st from 2004.
What a
And this movie's
time.
going to open the weekend of May 28th through May 30th. So we're right there.
So I
Holiday
went
weekend.
I went opening night or opening day at least. The 4 p.m. matinee opening day. That's big. You know you're in for a movie. You go on opening day.
You guys went opening night.
Well, you said
Or I
May
guess it was
28th.
probably after school, right? Is
Yeah,
school
after
still a
school.
thing in
Yeah.
May? Yeah.
Yeah. We yes, school's still a thing. Hit it out, got out of school 2:35 at Toys R Us by 3:30 to get your snacks, 4 o'clock movie.
Right, and we would have seen Shrek the week before. This is week two of Shrek. Day After Tomorrow is going to open in second place, behind Shrek 2's monstrous second weekend of 72.1 million. Day After Tomorrow is going to open with 68.7,
68.7 opening week.
which pretty respectable, I would say.
That's very respectable. That's number 12 on our list for biggest opening weekends of all time, just behind Finding Nemo's 70.6 and ahead of Planet of the Apes 68.2. So that's big right there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we've covered most of the top 10 here, so I don't know how much I'm going to dive into this.
Yeah.
I am going to mention that in fourth place, opening weekend of Raising Helen.
Yeah, you got to mention it while you can because this is probably like your last time to really
Right,
hone
it's
in and
never.
talk about it.
I've got like maybe like 2 more weeks where I can talk about this movie.
You got it.
But no, I usually do the other notable openings. So
You
Raising
do.
Helen
You do.
opens in fourth.
So you got to get it. Two, I got to say for you, Jim, before we go any further, two interesting notes about that opening weekend.
Okay.
One, it would hold the record for the highest opening weekend for a disaster film until last year's Twisters beat it. So
Interesting.
for it held that record for about 20 years. And then the second one is it was actually this second place grossing weekend is actually the highest second place opening weekend of all time. Like for a movie to not hit number one, it's the highest opening weekend for a movie not to hit number one until Inside Out would break that in 2015.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens when you run into the buzzsaw that is Shrek 2,
That
right?
is true. But still, to still hold your own against Shrek 2 and still open to over 60 million, like almost
Yeah,
70 million. Like that's absurd.
no, that's really good. Yeah, and I forgot to mention the budget as well. I'm just going to backtrack for that. This is the kind of movie where they're hoping for big returns. The budget, $125 million.
Yeah, it's big budget, but that almost 70 million opening weekend is a good sign that you're gonna get some money back. Like if this has some
Yeah,
staying
yeah,
power, like you're in good company right now. Like that's
it's a
very
strong start.
promising.
It's a strong Memorial Day weekend.
It
It's a
is,
strong,
it is a
which,
strong Memorial Day
which I
weekend.
know is that weekend, now that I
Right.
think about it.
The troops were like, this weekend I'm doing three things. I'm eating burgers, I'm eating dogs, I'm watching Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, there's nothing more American in Memorial Day weekend than destroying the planet with climate change. There's no-
That's a
uh,
national pastime.
yeah. Uh yeah, so just notable openings, like I said, Raising Helen's down here in fourth. This is the opening weekend of Soul Plane down here in fifth.
Oh, there's a movie I've watched way too many times.
Yeah, and honestly, we might have a front runner for my pick.
Oh man,
Ooh.
early runnings here already. Don't if you're gonna
Well,
say Raising Helen, I swear to God.
no, I mean, Raising Helen is in the mix. I'm not gonna lie, it's in the mix. I'm just throwing that out there. Um, but down here in 15th place, opening
Oh
on
boy,
only 20 screens. Have
Jesus
you ever
Christ.
seen the movie Saved?
Yes. With the it's just like it's like kids at school. It's like a Jesus movie, right?
Yeah, if I remember
Mandy
correctly,
Moore, right? Is it Mandy Moore?
Mandy Moore plays like the antagonist, I believe. I'm pretty sure Jenna Malone is like the
Yeah,
main
is a character in it.
character.
Isn't like Amanda Bynes in it also?
Oh, maybe Amanda Bynes is the antagonist, not Mandy Moore. I might be mixed up because Amanda Bynes is definitely in it.
Because Amanda Bynes is like I remember
They
she
might
like
all
plays the
be in it,
guitar.
honestly. I haven't seen it in a long
I
time.
do. I have seen this movie. Heather showed me this movie.
But yeah, the plot of Saved is she gets like a teen pregnancy and she goes to Catholic school and I'm pretty sure she tells everybody that it's like an immaculate conception. Like, or at least that concept comes up at some point in the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have seen that movie. Only once. Heather showed it to me and it was enjoyable.
Yeah, pretty funny. It's an early front runner. I'm not
Really
gonna
fun.
lock it in quite yet like I
You
did
got
with Passion of the
yeah.
Christ. Um, Going into weekend two, Day After Tomorrow is gonna drop 59.5%, which pretty high number,
Yeah,
pretty staggering, but
that's steep.
also like not uncommon when you start so high. Like we've talked about this the last couple of weeks where we've had movies that have had like crazy high drops when they didn't start so high. We had movies like Shrek that had like sick drops when they started very high. This is, I think, kind of normal. Like if you start with a big swing, between 50 and 60% isn't like terrible, I guess I would say.
No, it's not horrible.
It's gonna drop down to 27.9 million in third place.
All right. Still behind Shrek, I'm guessing.
It's still behind the third weekend of Shrek 2, and then I already guessed this movie as our next episode, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes. Azkaban, not banned, as we learned in previous episodes
Yeah,
as
as
well.
we've discussed. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I mean, like we talked about a bunch of these. Like Troy is still in here, Mean Girls is still in here, Shrek 2. So I'm just gonna keep rolling.
Fred
Weekend
Durst always said, just keep on rolling, baby.
weekend three of the day after tomorrow, 47.8% drop
Ooh.
down to 14.5 million. So it's kind of sinking like a stone.
It's kind of not really maintaining the juice.
All the way down in sixth place.
So it dropped down to sixth.
Yeah, in its third
Oof.
weekend.
Oh boy.
But
That's not a good sign.
I am gonna guess
So
that there is
stacked.
a movie here that is
It is
coming up after Prisoner of Azkaban.
okay.
Opening in second, like just to give some context for the competition here.
Okay.
Opening in second this weekend, The Chronicles of Riddick.
Oh boy. Jim, I did not see that in theaters.
Oh no.
I
All
was
right.
I I was not a Riddick guy.
We have a new early front runner for
Oh
my
man.
pick.
You're gonna be sensing a pattern over these next few episodes.
Chronicles of Riddick is like such a banger of a film.
I've actually never seen any of them.
Really?
Yeah, I never saw Pitch Black and never saw Chronicles of Riddick.
Okay. I mean,
Uh,
I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too early, but I think that really locks in that Chronicles of Riddick is a strong contender for my pick.
strong contender. Yeah, unless we find something else in there that's just like big that I missed.
All right, there's two other openings this weekend, and I'm gonna be really mad if you saw one of them.
Oh boy.
One
All
of
right.
them I'm pretty sure you didn't see. In fifth
Okay.
place, just edging out the well, not really. It beats the day after tomorrow by like $8 million, with
I
21.4.
think you're gonna be mad right now, depending on what you say.
Stepford Wives.
No, I did not see that, Jim.
Yeah,
Rest easy.
I didn't think that was the one you saw. This is the one I'm guessing that you probably did that I'm going to be mad about. In fourth place with 21.7 million, Garfield the movie.
Jim, I'd like to apologize in advance for
Yeah,
the
I
balance
knew
here.
it. You son of a bitch. I
Listen,
knew it.
much like Bill Murray got tricked into filming Garfield, I also got tricked into assuming it would be something worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this one. It's no A Tale of Two Kitties, though, that's for sure.
I did not see the second one in theaters.
I've never seen any Garfield
So
movie.
you are
I'm honestly like pretty upset that you're gonna break that streak.
yeah, I'm bringing you a Jim. I'm giving you new cinema here, Jim. This is what I do.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
What, you
And
telling me
then
you don't
let's
want to watch a Breckin Meyer vehicle?
yeah. I don't no, I don't. If it's Garfield the movie, I definitely don't actually. Um let's just keep chugging along here. Weekend 4 of the day after tomorrow. It's gonna is there okay, 44.3% drop down to 8th place with
Dude,
8.1 million.
just those consistent 44% drops week over week is just not good.
It's not great. Well, hey, it wouldn't be bad if it was 44% week over week. It's that it had a initial 60% drop and then did 44
Yeah,
every
just kept
week.
doing more. Yeah, not great. Not great.
I have a feeling that what we're gonna find is people didn't like this movie, is my guess. Like
Yeah, I would
the way it's
imagine
going, we'll find out.
that would end up being very mixed. And it doesn't help that it's a very stacked summer. Like you're coming out second week of Shrek. The week after that is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I don't know if we've exactly gotten to it yet, but there's also a really big superhero movie that's coming out in June. That's like so like day after tomorrow has its work cut out for it.
No, I don't think I've gotten to a big superhero movie yet. I did find another movie that I'm like almost 100% sure we're gonna do on this show because this one I do remember seeing.
I
But I'm not gonna say it here. I'm just gonna keep rolling with day after tomorrow.
keep rolling.
Which honestly, I think we're just getting to the point where we can follow this out of the
We
top
could
10
right, yeah,
because
write
it's
him out.
getting mighty close.
Doesn't sound like he has too many weeks
Weekend,
left.
I don't think it has any weeks left, honestly. Weekend 5, it's going to drop 41.3% down to 4.8 million in 11th place.
Ooh, man, dude. I thought like I knew this movie would have a very mixed reception, but I would have thought it would have at least hung around for like around like maybe 5, 6 weeks. 4 weeks is I did not see it bowing out that quickly in 4 weeks because like so it's joining other 4 week movies like Just Married, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Cat in the Hat. Like that's not company you want to keep, especially for Roland Emmerich, who made like one of the best disaster movies of all time in Independence Day.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not company you want to keep, but I'm we'll get more into it a little bit later, but I think it's probably pretty appropriate company. like like
How
it
dare
doesn't
you,
shock
sir?
me that it's keeping that company.
Bite your goddamn tongue.
Yeah, I mean we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. I don't want to get too much into it now.
All right, let's hear some totals then.
Yeah. So totals, it's gonna finish with. So this is an interesting one, right? Domestically, and remember, this is against the $125 million budget. Domestically, it finishes with $186.7 million. By any stretch, a miserable bomb, right? Like,
Yeah. If you were just going off domestic, like that's tough. Because with your marketing, like you probably spent if the budget was 125 with marketing, movie was probably like what? Maybe 150, 175.
yeah, I mean, like, they didn't make their money back at the box office, would be my guess. You know,
Not
it's like you never
domestically at
really
least.
know what the marketing budgets are of these things. The rule of thumb I've heard is you can basically double the production budget. But yeah, 186.7 million domestically, terrible.
Great.
What I think we're also going to see here that's interesting is maybe the start of a trend that is good for movie companies, not or movie studios, not so good for us, the movie viewers, because internationally we're gonna save the bag here. It's gonna pull in 360, just about $366 million internationally for a worldwide total of 552.6.
Lord. Yeah, so just coming out, the international audience just coming to save this movie from being an absolute turd. 552, good enough to put us in the number 16 spot, just behind another disaster movie, Armageddon, with 553, and ahead of Gladiator's 503. So this outgrows Gladiator thanks to that international market. And it's
Right.
especially interesting that this has such a I mean, I guess disaster movies do have that worldwide appeal because it is that kind of like no matter where you live, like you have some form of natural disaster that you deal with in the weather. So I guess it's like it's a genre that anybody really can get behind. But this movie
Yeah.
is very centralized to America. So it is funny seeing that, like, for the most part, international people were like, yeah, I can watch America get fucked up for like 2 hours.
Well, I don't think that that's it. I do see what you're saying. What the trend I'm talking about is where it doesn't matter like what or who your movie's about. If you can put some big flashy tornadoes on screen, like you don't need to speak English to understand big flashy tornadoes on screen. You know what I mean?
That is
like it
true.
almost doesn't matter what it's about at that point.
Well, I guess I
Similar
mean
to how you and
that would
I might watch The Wandering Earth, for example, right? Remember
yeah.
when we were all
Yep.
psyched to watch The Wandering Earth?
Yeah.
Like that's not a movie made for us necessarily. We probably don't understand a lot of like the cultural intricacies of it, but it doesn't matter because the Earth has a bunch of like rocket lasers on it that are like propelling it through space, and that's the coolest thing we've ever heard, right?
Well, yeah, you're just
Like
like,
if
I just
we
want to
can
see
put
dope
that
shit.
on screen, we're psyched, you know?
That is true. And I guess around this time, that probably makes a lot more sense because famously last year with Twisters, Twisters does very well domestically and absolutely bombs internationally.
Yeah.
So you're that line of thought probably works very well in the pre-COVID era from like 2004 to 2019 because that international market absolutely does blow up where they'll just ingest anything that we were
Yeah,
putting
I
out.
mean it's similar to like Transformers, for example, right? Like which
Ah, my
eventually
favorite.
those movies turn into like total schlock.
Like a fine wine.
But they still make $1 billion every time, or close to it, because
Yeah.
like people don't care. There's just big giant robots on screen fighting. You know what I mean?
They're like robot dinosaur, $1 billion. Take it.
Right. And like again, I don't need to know any language to understand big giant robots. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. It's a big giant robot. Okay. Like,
They're like that giant robot is gonna open up his little valve right there, and he's gonna pee on one of the guys with gasoline. Everyone
yeah.
loves that shit, man. It's gonna be hilarious.
Right. So I just think it's a particularly interesting one because I think it's the first movie we've seen that kind of fits that mold, and I promise you it's not going to be the last.
Definitely not the
We've got a
last.
lot more of those coming.
It really takes off in the 2010s, and it's very interesting to see this time how it was very much an experimentation where like we're starting to see those trends like be discovered. So
Yeah.
it's fun to go back and look at these movies and see like, oh yeah, like this movie was probably a big movie that started to lead the path towards, more mediocre movies that would go on to become huge because international markets would save it.
Yeah, this might be the first one we've seen where like some studio executive and potentially even James Cameron was like scratching their chin, being like, "Hmm," you know what I mean? Like,
He
that's
was like,
interesting.
he was like,
Like,
I could do something with this.
right, right. Like, what is that huge international number that saved the day? Like, how do we make that happen again and even bigger next time?
He's like, those people are gonna eat this shit up.
Yeah.
Now, Jim, something I have for you. Beautiful thing is in the first year of this movie's release on home video, it made another $110 million in DVD sales.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Not
Yeah,
the best number we've heard. I think Shrek 2 like blew that out of the
yeah.
water,
Shrek 2 made like $800 million in DVD,
right? Right,
which
right.
is just
So
like fucking insane.
yeah, it's
But for
also though it's still worth pointing out because like 110 million copies or 110 million dollars isn't like spectacular for DVDs based upon what we've said so far. But it's still, you bump that number from 552 up to like almost 700, like it's making a difference.
yeah, especially when like that domestic number like was on the low end, like that 110 million in DVD sales, like definitely makes that blow, softens that blow so much.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like that's a big win right there for the day after tomorrow's sake. Because you're right, Jim. Critically and commercially, people were very mixed on this movie.
Yeah, I
45
have a feeling it did not do great.
did not do great, but they were very aligned. 45% from the critics, 50% from the audience. So they were like right there together, where they were all just like, yeah, this movie's pretty mediocre.
And the crowd goes mild.
The crowd definitely went mild. On the lower end here of our IMDb, also 6.5 from the IMDb, and the death sentence, Jim,
Oh man.
A B
A
cinema score.
B? Oh my god, dude, not
Yeah.
even a B plus?
Yeah. Roland Emmerich was like, I know I'm making a B movie, but a B cinema score? No.
Oh
Just
boy.
yeah. An absolutely turgid affair for him. But we got some audience reviews to really, heighten where that critical reception is. We want to really get down to boots on the ground, seeing what the people are saying coming out on the streets. What do they
Of
really got
course.
to say? We got a couple of one stars here. And let's just say, both on the 1 star and on the 10 star, people definitely very reasonable. They wouldn't use a movie such as global warming and so over the top spectacle as this to make a political
Yeah.
statement. They wouldn't do
Right.
it.
There's no way this is going to get political or extreme in any way. And I
They
think this is maybe going to be one of my
do
favorite ones because if everybody, like critics and audiences as a whole, agree that this is like very middle of the road, like 4.5 out of 10, like the people on the extremes are going to be so crazy.
they're going to be nuts. And that's what we live for. We live for the extremes here. We got our first person here, and he writes, "Why does Roland Emmerich hate New York?"
I
No,
know, right? That's all I could think about the whole time.
that son of a bitch. Never mind the political debates supposedly swirling about this film's treatment of greenhouse gases and their rather deleterious effect on our environment. It's a non issue. Ultimately, this is just another Roland Emmerich film. Boring characters played by good actors are subjected to various catastrophes realized by marvelous special effects. The real question is, after 3 movies depicting its ruin, why does he hate New York? And don't miss the film's bizarre glorification of book burning, as the film's characters are huddled in the icebound public library and can't find anything else to build a fire with. Because there's certainly no wood in a library. Don't bother. Rent the DVD so you can skip from chapter to chapter.
Oh my god.
Like, they're in a library. They need to get a fire going very quickly. It's cold out. we're gonna burn books. At what point does that scream we're glorifying book burning?
Yeah, so like I'm no Boy Scout, but like even if you had a bunch of like wood furniture that is presumably finished and stuff like that, I think that's pretty hard to light on fire, right? Like it's not like gonna just like light up in a blaze immediately. What
You know what
you
burns
need is
pretty
things
easy?
like
Paper.
paper to like get things a going, Paper's like the foreplay, if you will. Um,
It's
and
not
also
like at
like,
any point they're like, yeah, let's burn all these great literature. They're like, let's burn these books on taxes, like on tax
yeah,
reform.
that's the next thing I was gonna say. Yeah, like the movie doesn't glorify book burning. It like brings up book burning, I think almost specifically to do the exact opposite, which is to be like, even if everything goes totally tits up, we should probably like save some culture along the way. You know what I mean? Like that stuff's important even if you need to not freeze to death. Like you can pick and choose which books you burn, so to speak.
Absolutely. Forget about all those damn environmentalists. We need to ask the real questions to Roland Emmerich. Like, what's your beef with New York, bro?
Yeah, why do you hate New York so much, dude?
What's the problem, dude? What did it do to
Also, why
you?
do why do the people who leave these reviews always try to sound so smart? What was that word? Deleterious?
Deleterious effect on our environment.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like deleterious. The first half is just spelled delete, so I'm assuming it's like a deterioration.
I guess I don't
You,
know.
you Google it while I
No,
vamp.
we're gonna look it up.
Yeah, look it up. I bet I'm pretty on the nose right there. I think that tracks pretty well right there. But yeah, they always got to
So
sound so smug and use like a big like word of the day. And he's like, man, he's like, this one's
deleterious, causing harm or damage.
yeah. So yeah, there you go.
You couldn't have just said harmful.
Yeah, yeah. It could have been their rather harmful effect on our environment. No, no, no. That would be too easy. He's
Yeah,
like, how am I
just
supposed to get on my
terrible.
soapbox and be smug?
Right, right. I need everybody to know how smart I am so they'll listen to me.
He's like, if there's one place that people are searching for smart individuals, it's the one-star reviews of IMDb. I have a
Exactly.
responsibility to my friends and people on IMDb.
Yeah.
And that man was going to take it. We
Not
got
so
our,
bad though. No climate change denial yet, which feels like a good sign.
yeah, definitely a good sign so far. We got our next one here. And they write, yes, yes, after over 2 hours, we finally get it. Hardcore environmentalists are really, really, really smart, and everyone else isn't. I dislike this film because the dialogue is like a cardboard version of The West Wing on a bad night. It insults many members of its paying audience without thought or remorse. This will not bode well for this movie in the total box office. Most people don't appreciate being called idiots the last time I checked. The plot's predictable, although the sequence of the events doesn't really pass the sensibility test. The only redeeming quality of this movie is its special effects. The movie needs a little less condescending attitude and a bit more plot.
Did it call anybody an idiot? Like the only
No,
guy maybe was the vice president, but even he wasn't like nobody was like outright calling him stupid. They just disagreed with him a bunch.
yeah, I don't know. I think this
And he
might
did
be
end up being wrong, but I don't know.
I think this woman might be projecting the fact that she
Right,
doesn't
right.
understand anything that happened in this movie, and it's like maybe you should
Right.
introspectively think I should probably read up on some stuff.
Yeah, she's like, this is America. I don't know what paleoclimatology is.
It's just like they're using all those
with,
fancy
with
words.
your fancy book words.
Yeah. You got all your fancy words, and I'm sitting over here being like, we don't like being called stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, I didn't think the deleterious guy was calling me stupid. I think he's just trying to look smart. Like, there's a difference, right?
This woman is just like, she's like, the dialogue, couldn't understand it. That's not going to bode well for us stupid people in the audience.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think this movie was very condescending. I do think it had like a kind of not so hidden message behind it, but I don't think it was doing it in a way like maybe this is just me looking at it from 2025 where people are a lot more aggressive about calling other people stupid, but
Yeah.
seems like they could have went a lot harder if that's what they were trying to do.
It some people, man, they're just out of control with just their stupidity. Our next 1-star reviewer. They write, where, let's go. They write, it's a rehash of Emmerich's tried and true destroy stuff disaster movies, and he even destroys the same round tower building in LA again, just like in Independence Day. Unlike Independence Day, there are no redeeming performances by Will Smith to make this movie bearable. You will love this movie, however, if you think the US is evil, believe our climate is very fragile, believe that third world nations have it right, and we will grovel before them, and believe that it is better to wipe out half the world to have cleaner air. Emmerich also seems to think that New York, North America only has two cities worth caring about, a horrendous 1 out of 10, and 2 hours of your life you will never reclaim.
So which flyover state do you think that guy's from?
I'm gonna go for somewhere in the Bible Belt. This guy is
Yeah,
hailing from.
yeah,
He's like, you think I'm gonna glorify and grovel before some third world nation? Guess
yeah.
again, Haas.
By the way, I thought like three of those things that he said, and I didn't like this movie, so you're wrong, buddy.
All right, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, right. I do think the U.S. is evil, and I did not love this movie.
Exactly.
But cleaner air would be nice, not gonna lie.
Dude, just since you said the cleaner air thing, the funniest part about this movie is the line at the very end of the movie.
Never seen the air this clear before.
Yeah, right. Because it does kind of be like, would it be so bad if there was another ice age? I don't know.
They're like, we're just asking the questions here, man. We're not
Yeah,
giving you the answer.
exactly. There is a little bit of that at the end where I was like, man, wow, they really like as they really said that, huh?
They really put that out there for everyone in the world to think about. They're like, this is a good spot to end on because people will have some really good rational takes about this.
Like like millions of people froze to death trying to walk out of New York City. And this guy's just like, ah, look at that, clear skies though, huh?
Dude, just amazing. This fucking next person's review. He writes, like watching a dog vomit in slow motion. Based on geological theories that are ridiculous, bad acting, and frankly, even the death and destruction was boring. Here's a fun quote from the movie. Here behind me, we see a tornado. Oh, really? I could have sworn it was a windmill. I will say, I will say a few good things about it, however.
This guy's kind of cooking, I'm not gonna lie.
First off, it has gotten a great deal of followings from people who think they have been abducted by aliens. Great job. Second of all, it's worth seeing just because of the sheer absurdity of it. It's great.
What was that abducted by aliens thing? Did he mean
Is
to
it?
leave a review on Independence Day?
No, no. I think he was equating that the only people that would think this movie is good are people that think they've been abducted by aliens.
Oh, okay. That guy
So
was kind of cooking. He lost me with that one.
yeah, he had it. He had us in the first half. Then he kind of lost us in the second half. But my God, dude, like watching a dog vomit in slow motion. Excellent, excellent, right there. Like that's
Yeah.
good work on your part, my friend. Keep
These
it
these
keep it
haven't
going.
been so great so far. Only people like have been a few of them that kind of danced around denying climate change, but they
All right.
haven't
Oh,
like outright. I wanted them to get really crazy.
Jim, you want someone? You want
I
someone
do, yeah. I
crazy?
want like grade A crazy.
Okay. Well, let me give you this last 1-star reviewer here, and let's see if he ramps it up for you. He writes, there is a movie in which the possible dramatic consequences of global warming are displayed. The message is simple. If we, and that is especially the US, keep on destroying our environment, there is the terrible danger that someday nature will strike back. In his movie, this strike is a new ice age. End of message, end of movie. But all people here seem to be caring about is how dull the plot was and how insolent it is to bother Americans with such a topic after 9/11. I really
Oh,
feel just when you thought
I
9/11
really
wouldn't
didn't see
show
it
up in
coming this
reviews again.
week. I really didn't see it coming.
Hard left hook from 9/11. Here we
Yeah.
go.
God, did people in 2004 think about anything besides 9/11?
No, we did not, Jim. But all people here Oh, here we go. They go. Then he follows up with, "I really feel for the victims of this tragedy, but the essence of the movie is lost in these complaints. Because if some kind of weather crisis would actually someday happen, it would be far worse than 109/11s put together."
This is before Team America, right?
Yes, it is.
They must have. Dude, what are the odds that they like took that joke directly from this IMDb
They just
review?
had to read the sign. They were like, "Yep, it writes itself, baby."
It's gonna be 109
They finish.
That's like
They
911,000.
finish with, "It is always simple to escape in a dream world, but the truth remains out there, and it is not about a quarrel between liberals and Republicans, but about the future. Let's hope Emmerich's vision will never come true, but don't look away from the reality of pollution, wasting our natural resources, and global warming. That would be an insult to your intelligence."
I mean, looking back with like Los Angeles ravaged by fires, and like I don't know, maybe this guy was kind of cooking. I'm not
Maybe
sure.
we're onto something. Is the Los Angeles fires worse than 109/11s put together?
I don't know. Not yet, anyway. Probably not yet, but that's easy to say when I don't live in LA. I don't
Yeah,
know.
not yet, but we're building towards it. It's like so insane. But
How
like
many, how many,
what? Like
on a
why?
scale of
Like
0 to 100, how many 9/11s would you say the Los Angeles fires are?
that's the new Richter scale. Get out of here, Richter scale. We're on the 9/11 scale.
Yeah. I
On a
mean, dude,
scale.
if we could get 100, maybe we could get everybody to care about one thing again. That wouldn't be so
That
bad.
is, yeah, that is true. Yeah. How do we bring everyone together? I got it. 109/11s put together.
Yeah. We're like dangerously close to like a supervillain's plot.
A megalomaniac is like, "I finally got it. I know the answer. 109/11s put together." I'm pretty sure that's what Lex Luthor was doing in Batman v Superman.
Yeah, we're like kind of like what was the guy from Civil War? Baron Zemo? Is that his name?
Oh my god. Amazing. What was that shit about Nam, dude?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hold on. Hold on.
What's that shit about Vietnam?
It hits every time, man. It hits
Yeah,
every
it
time.
really is. It really is amazing. Like with the benefit of some distance and time, how 9/11 is our Vietnam. You know what I mean? Like
It
the
really
joke
is.
in Lebowski was like, there's some people that's just all they talk about, and it's like, man, that's like movie reviews. They're just
They're,
talking about 9/11.
they're on to something. We just could not escape it. It broke us in a fundamental way.
It broke our IMDb movie review system in a way that can never be repaired.
We're on like it's like an insane amount of times for 9/11 to have come up in movie reviews that have nothing to do with 9/11. Like it's
Right, right.
absurd.
It's like over 50%. And I'm just curious to see. This will be one of the things I keep an eye out on as we keep doing this podcast. Like when does the healing start? Like when do
Yeah.
we stop getting
When do
random
we
9/11
finally start it?
references?
When do we finally start to heal from 9/11? Well, it wasn't in 2004, Jim.
Yeah, we're very much in the thick of it then,
The band-aid is still very fresh. The wound still needs to be
yeah.
gauzed and applied daily. It's a tough time. It's a tough time. But now we'll
But
switch it over.
the only
Yes.
people crazier than that guy have to be the people who gave this movie 10 stars.
Yeah, they're we got a couple of people here, Jim. We'll start off with this first person. They made this review May 28th, so they were also there opening night. They wrote, "Sometimes I question my priorities. For example, I was sitting in a movie theater at 12:05 a.m. Friday morning, waiting for probably the most highly anticipated movie of the summer, knowing I had to be at a 7 a.m. meeting. Who cares? This movie was worth the wait. The cinematography was remarkable, from the opening scenes of these tremendous glaciers of ice to an unforgettable view of Los Angeles literally destroyed." Ooh, bro, too soon. Come on. "Just when you think you've seen it all, here come the wolves. I could go on and on, but I have a 7 o'clock meeting and I need coffee. I plan on going again after the meeting. Great movies like this can't be just seen once."
Dude, this guy was just high on life when he got out of Day After Tomorrow.
Like, I could just picture him at the water cooler before the meeting started. He's like, "And then, dude, wolves showed up. It was fucking wild, dude."
I love that he brought up the wolves as like a positive. like, like
Like
he was like he was like psyched that the wolves showed up. It's so funny.
you just know at that meeting he was trying to convince someone else to go with him, like after the meeting.
Dude, that guy might have quit his job the next day. He was so high. He was like, "No, I see what life can be now. I don't need to go to 7 o'clock meetings anymore."
He gets called into his office like a week later. They're like, dude, you've missed like 6 shifts because you just keep going to see the day after tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
he's
need
like,
you to show up for work.
he's like, "All right, I'll be in the day after tomorrow." Boo.
He's like, every time I see it, I then have to see it again the day after tomorrow.
Oh my God, it never ends.
Just it's a never ending cycle.
No, yeah,
He's the one who
it's
kept it
so
in for
funny
four
that
weeks.
guy had to be like up early, and the first thing he did when he got home was write an IMDb review at
He
like
was like,
3 in the morning.
yeah, he was like 12 o'clock movie. I get home by like 3, 7 a.m. meeting. I'm too hyped up right now. I can't just go to sleep. Like the adrenaline's still burning. I gotta write a review.
Yeah, it's good for him though. Good for him. You gotta have passion in life.
I do. I do like to see passion outside of the Christ for people in this day and age.
Yeah, right, right.
So, so it's just great to see a love of movies right there from that guy. We got our next person, and they write, I went for the special effects, which were fantastic, and found that the story had me on the edge of my seat. I cared about these characters and wanted to see them succeed in this weather. And to me, that's what makes a good movie. Also, when I walked out of the movie, the sky was a mass of low gray clouds and a gentle rain was falling. I have never seen a rainy day look so creepy. I just wanted to get in my car and head south. I know the critics gave this movie mostly bad reviews. Just shows how jaded they are. I'm glad word of mouth seems to be working. The first 2 theaters I went to for the afternoon show were sold out. It's a great movie, well worth seeing on the big screen, and later adding to the personal movie library. This is one I'm going to see again and again.
Dude, I'm so exhausted with people like coming up for excuses for people who disagree with them. Like,
We're so
it's not that they
jaded.
didn't like this movie; they're just too jaded, dude. Like,
They're like, dude,
they
I
have
wanted I wanted to like this movie, but I've just been burned too many times.
right, right. They have a fundamental personality flaw, and that's why they didn't like this movie that I loved. It's not that maybe it's not a great movie and they just didn't like it.
Never be something as simple as that, Jim. Like, what are we
Right.
talking about here?
It's so unbelievably crazy.
It's amazing. And then we got one last 10-star reviewer here. And they write, the most disturbing thing about this film is that the events depicted are all too plausible.
Oh
Okay,
my
I'm not
God.
sure about the super, super cool air, but the rest of it makes perfect science sense. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
we got a
All right. Yep.
scientist on our hands.
I'm with them. I'm with them right
Hold
there.
on, hold on.
Science
I
sense.
actually I actually got an interview with this guy separately.
It's not sorcery, it's science.
It's not science. It's not sorcery. It's not science, Mark. It's science sense. All right. I know you're
Right,
thinking about
right,
common sense, but it's not that. It's science sense.
right, right, yeah.
They
That's
continue.
that's what this movie had, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. The first thought that came to my mind watching this. They continue. I actually saw a documentary about a year ago about how if the Gulf Stream stopped, then Britain would become like today's northern Canada. Yeah, the Gulf Stream would just stop.
Yeah, it's like it's like
Stop dead in
it's
its
like a great
tracks.
like schlock History Channel documentary though. Did you ever see they did one that was like, what if humans disappeared? And it was like, what would happen to cities like if there was just no more humans? And it was like it
It's like, I
was
don't
so
know, wither
stupid.
away. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, like plants would grow and animals would move in. That was the gist of it. Like, and it's like
classic.
they made like an hour-long documentary about
Yeah,
that.
well, now I need to see the one about the Gulf Stream stopping.
Yeah,
They
right.
they continue. This film makes use of that and serves as a chilling warning about what will happen if we continue to pollute Mother Earth. The acting is good, and if you did care if the characters were going to live and die, what? It's man, this person needs to work on their sentence structure. The plot was a little predictable at times, but in a disaster movie, they nearly always are. But the main thing about this film is respect. Respect for nature. Now, I don't claim to be a great eco warrior. But it is concerning when you see just how easily these events can occur. If just one person in 100 in America or other heavily polluted states stops and thinks about what their country is doing and takes steps to stop by doing a bit more recycling, then the film will have achieved its purpose. And the film is that good, I think it will. I absolutely think it will. So please, everyone, let's just do a little bit more recycle. Or switch a light bulb off, or not rev your car engine so much, just that bit more to save Mother Earth. Even something as simple as not littering will help. This film portrays a harrowing account of what will happen if we don't. Maybe not today, but probably the day after tomorrow.
Oh, they ended on a roll credits. Oh no. Yeah, no. Remember, dude, you remember what Hope was like? Wow. It's like that guy's got like such a he's so wide-eyed about the future.
Just the great amount
I
of
kind of wish
respect.
he didn't live to see it because it didn't go good, man. It
Yeah,
wasn't anything like you
yeah,
dreamed.
didn't get better, buddy. I promise you that. If anything, we've gone in the opposite direction at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
We can't stop it. It's self-sustaining now.
Yeah. There's also like a very like early 2000s attitude in there, which is like, listen, if you just throw out your wrappers, we're gonna fix this. Like, and it's
As if,
like, I
yeah,
don't know if that's gonna do it, man. I think there might be deeper rooted issues than that.
as if me personally stop littering is gonna like account for the like insane corporations that just dump vast amounts of nonsense everywhere. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
totally not these corporations doing all these back channels. It's me, the little guy, that's ruining this.
right. And it's like, dude, if you just rev your car engine just a little bit less, that's like gonna fix the problem of like the pollution in the air. It's like, I don't think, man, like a lot of people commute to work. I don't know if me revving a little less is gonna fix it.
Just picture this guy sitting at a light next to like a Camaro that's like just revving up a little bit, and he's like, "See, this is what's killing the environment."
Yeah, right, right, right.
Just like, oh, so many amazing takes. But all right, Jim, I turn it over to you now. Where do you lie on this movie being the potentiality for the next 100 9/11s, or it being like you're just jaded, you didn't love it. Like that's why it didn't hit for you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball at you. I think this movie is worse than 109/11. No, I'm just kidding. Um, no, as always, I think it's somewhere in between those two ridiculous extremes, right?
Go figure.
Um, there was one more thing in that last review that I think will lead in pretty nicely to like what I
Okay,
want to say most about this movie.
let's hear it.
And they said like they pulled the kind of like hands in the air, like, come on, it's just a disaster movie. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's what do you expect from it, kind of a thing, you know? Um, and I'll tell you what I expect from a disaster movie: them to be interesting. Like, I don't expect them to be like Oscar worthy. Um, but like this movie stinks, dude. This movie stinks so hard because nothing happens for like 90% of the movie. You know what I mean? Like I'll tell you what I expect from a disaster movie. I expect to see people struggling against the elements, against all odds to survive, to like escape maybe,
Some pulse
to like
pounding this.
stop the disaster from happening. What I don't expect is for people to kind of just like lamp in the public library for 45 minutes and like have no real challenges whatsoever in terms of surviving. Like and to the point where the movie like I think they kind of realize that they cornered themselves, so they have to like think up ways for them to need to struggle to survive in the library. So they're like, oh, you know what though? That one girl got a cut earlier and now her blood's poisoned. So you got to go fight wolves and get the cure. Like it makes no sense, right?
You don't think it was great when it compounded with then the wolves showed up?
No, I mean, I don't hate that the wolves showed up. I like it. I don't necessarily like dislike the concept of the wolves being there. I just don't know what the fuck it has to do with this movie. You know what I mean?
Listen,
like
Jim, it had an excellent payoff or a setup when they walked in to the zoo and were like, the wolves got out.
right, right. When they walked into a room with wolves, they was like, oh, now there's wolves. What are you gonna do? So like I get why it's there because like again, I think the movie really painted itself into a corner where they're like, "All right, well they're in a library. This is only going to last a couple of days. They actually have a pretty decent amount of food. They got like a fireplace with like an endless amount of books to light on fire. So what's the problem? Like what's going wrong here?" Um and that kind of leads me into the next thing, which is like why did Dennis Quaid need to go to New York exactly? Like, what was the purpose of him going to New York exactly?
To walk there, bro. He needed to go for his son.
Right, but like, here's what would have happened if he didn't walk to New York. His son would have ate some candy bars, like lit some tax books on fire, and he would have saw him in 3 days. Like, what's the problem? I don't
He doesn't.
understand like
He
what he's trying to
doesn't.
do.
He doesn't know that though.
I
Really,
mean, no.
what it's trying to do is do the he's kind of like estranged from his son, that they don't have a good
Yeah.
relationship, and this is his idea to mend that relationship, is to be like, "I will come for you."
Yeah, what he's gonna do to mend that relationship is die in a snowstorm 10 miles north of Philadelphia. Got it.
Is to
Like,
literally just show up. I never showed up before, but I'll show up in the storm for you, my friend.
yeah, but like, what
Because it's
was
not
the
even like he
issue?
shows up and saves him. He just shows
No, right. He just shows up, and then the storm's over, and then the government flies helicopters in. Which, spoiler alert, I think they were gonna do that anyway. I think they were probably gonna check if there was survivors, like no matter what, right? So like what did Dennis Quaid achieve in this movie besides killing his best friend? Like,
listen, he got the respect of his son back.
yeah, I suppose. I
That's all
suppose.
that mattered to him. He needed
Yeah,
that respect back.
but it just like none of it made like any sense to me, I suppose. Like, I think there's a way that you could make this movie where it's better, and I get the idea of like he's estranged from his son and he's trying to rebuild that relationship and the disaster is making it hard. Like all of that's like disaster movie stuff, right? Like I can definitely get behind that. But at the end of the day, like this movie is just like a storm starts and then it ends and then the movie ends. Like everything else is just nonsense. You know what I mean?
And it's totally cool.
Yeah. Although like I will say
What a
though, like
ride.
the other thing I expect from disaster movies is kind of like huge, larger than life, kind of like the stuff we talked about in Titanic, where like the world is crumbling, right? And I know this is like a bit of a ridiculous comparison to make, where we're comparing The Day After Tomorrow to Titanic, right? But
Both disaster movies, so like there
yeah,
should be similarities and comparisons.
but that's another movie we've done too. And what did we talk about in the disaster portion of Titanic, right? Like the amazing thing about the disaster portion of Titanic is that it's like an hour and a half long and it continually escalates for that entire hour and a half. Up to the point where there's like, they solve the problem of getting out of the cuffs, and then there's like, who's this kid like in the hallway who's about to drown? We got to do something about the kid, right? Like we got to like so like the difference between this movie and that movie is that in The Day After Tomorrow, what happens is they destroy LA and then nothing happens for like a half an hour, and then they like flood New York, and then nothing happens for the rest of the movie. Like, and that's it. Like,
Yeah, I think that it definitely paints them into a corner trying to go so big with it. And in a movie like this, you have to go big because it's about like a second ice age really taking over like half of like a continent, like a few continents.
yeah,
But when you have to go so big like that, like what works so great about the disasterness of Titanic is that it's one central location, and you can slowly do those building blocks of, I got over this hump, oh but now here's an obstacle, I got over this obstacle, oh but now here's another obstacle, and it's all self-contained, that we're following along almost in real time, so you're like living in that tension. Whereas when you have to jump between a whole bunch of different places that are just going to start getting disasterized, it's harder to keep that tight knit tension, because it's like, oh, all right, we're gonna have LA be destroyed, but we don't have any main characters in LA, so we gotta like quickly introduce you to people that are just gonna get fucked up, and then we're moving out from over there. Like, oh,
Yeah,
here's
yeah,
Japan real quick. Here comes a whole bunch of like hail, but we don't know anybody. So like it's just there. It just happens. But the
right,
other
right.
people we get really like somewhat attached to, and I say attached loosely as much as it's just like they're just characters in the movie, is the Scottish people that are in like the weather spot that gets snowed in.
Sure. Yeah.
But even that, it's just like they just kind of reside themselves to the fact that like we're snowed in, gonna die. Like there's no tension or like anything of even attempting to get free.
Yeah, which is also like that's kind of an interesting angle to take in a disaster movie too. Like I do like that as kind of like a B story or a C story in a movie like this.
Yeah.
So like I don't necessarily take action I don't take issue with that part as much. But like you talked about like how like this is bouncing around a lot. Another movie that we've done that handles that very well is Armageddon. You know what I mean? Like Armageddon has those random clips of places getting destroyed, but it's still a movie that's about people trying to accomplish a goal, and that goal matters at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. Like, I think that's kind of where it fails. It's not so much that they have a bunch of places to go to. It's that Dennis Quaid has one place to go to, and I have no idea why he's going there. Like, I literally can't make heads or tails of it.
Yeah.
And I think where this movie really loses it, and like the biggest difference between Armageddon and it, right? Since we're talking about Armageddon, um, in Armageddon, if they destroy the asteroid, everything's saved. If they do it before a certain point, right? In the middle of this movie, with about an hour left, Dennis Quaid is like, "Listen, everybody north of like this line is screwed. Like, all they can do is sit there and wait it out and hope for the best. There's nothing we can do about it." And then the movie's like, "But by the way, his son is there, and he's gonna go, even though there's nothing anybody can do about it. I guess I don't know. Like,
Gotta
it's
go save the day.
right, but he doesn't save anything. And like he just gave a detailed presentation to the president about how no one could save anything. Like
No, it's definitely, I feel like crumbles under so much of what they want to do, where it's like it is a disaster movie, but at the same time, you're trying to do these like far-reaching global effects of like politics like wrapped up into it. And I get why
yeah,
you would do that because it's such a movie where it's like affecting such a huge portion. So like you're adding it in there, but you lose out on a lot of what you can do tension wise and at least goal wise by just putting all of that in there. Because like a good way that you probably could make this work better is Dennis Quaid is in New York with his son and he's speaking over maybe like a conference call to them about this.
right,
And now the
right.
thing is, it's like he's got to get his kid and family and get to the safety line. Like after like being like, you didn't heed my warning. This is what's happening. We're all fucked. But the goal for him now is, I know how to survive this. Let me try and save as many people as I can.
Yes, there you go. Right. Now you're talking. Now
And
there's
we
like a
and we've
point. You know
and
what
we've
I
got
mean?
yeah.
Like
And
there's something happening.
yeah, there's at least a more prescient goal for him that makes a lot more sense, has some more tension built into it, and you can go some places with it
Yeah, and it's
because
a
there's
way more
agency to it now.
interesting it's a way more interesting movie if he's in New York because at the beginning he's trying to fix a relationship that's estranged,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden there's like the monkey wrench of all monkey wrenches tossed into it. You know what I mean? Because now there's conflict there that I care about. You know what I mean? Like he's at odds with his son and he's trying to still build that relationship, and that's the whole reason he came here. But also his work is getting in the way again. You know what I mean? Like now you have a movie. I don't think the movie you got is really a movie, you know? And I hate to say it, but it's kind of like the real life version of all the stereotypical things that the chuds say about Hollywood. You know what I mean? Because this movie does feel like a climate change PSA. Like it does.
Yeah, it absolutely does that they're because like it's so fucking on the nose when they're just like, And here we see all the Americans just like breaking the chain link fence to get into Mexico. Like it's
That
like,
part,
oh, for God's sakes, man!
maybe my
Like
favorite part, when they're like, in an amazing twist in
just
illegal immigration,
yeah,
Americans are crossing the Rio Grande
man.
into Mexico.
It's like
That
so
got me laughing. I'm not gonna lie, that
so
was pretty
absurd.
great.
Also, like I if there's one thing that I could throw that's in my biggest con is they kill the wrong person. This whole movie, all I want is for that vice president to die. Like he's
Yeah,
such a dumb fuck piece of shit throughout this entire movie. And a beautiful thing about disaster movies is there's always that one guy that they build up that's such a piece of shit that like you cheer when he finally gets his comeuppance.
yeah,
But instead,
yeah.
like he just gets to be like, the president died. Oh man, I learned my mistake. I'm a
Right.
cool dude now.
He's
Like
literally the protagonist of this movie. He's the only one who learns anything. The whole thing.
and
Like,
it's such nonsense. Like I want to see that dude get fucking murked. Dude, when he has the conversation, I don't remember if it's with Dennis Quaid or someone else where they're arguing, and he calls Mexico like a third world country. It was like, Jesus Christ, dude, like this guy's
yeah,
out of
yeah,
control.
yeah, absolutely.
Like, so
No,
yeah,
but
it,
I
it,
mean,
it
yeah, he really is the only one who learns anything, and it's like this weird. Again, it's like this weird like Hollywood wet dream where they're like, the politician who doesn't believe in climate change gets his mind changed. Like I
uh,
can't wait, and it's like, guys, I got bad news for you.
yeah, that
It's
shit's
not
yeah,
happening
like that
ever.
shit is not
Like,
happening. Like it's yeah, it's such a wet dream movie.
right, like they're mad at you for even mentioning that, like that somebody might do that, you know? Like it's just like you guys are so off base.
Now we've gone through a lot of complaints here from you, and I would not refute any of what you just said, Jim.
Okay,
Everything that you just said, I totally see, understand, also agree with you on a large majority of everything you just said.
okay.
Having said that,
Here's the but.
here's the but. I still enjoy this movie.
What part
I
exactly?
it's dumb. It's absolutely stupid. But I'm not gonna lie, all the scenes of the disaster stuff, like I'm always in for those. And,
Yeah,
and like, and it's kind of part and parcel for a lot of disaster movies for me is the stupider the better a lot of times for me with disaster movies. Do I like my disaster movies that also like take the care to make sense and also like give me a little bit and be smart? Yeah, love that shit. That's icing on the cake. But also love when my cake doesn't have icing and it's just fucking nonsense.
okay.
That disaster movies for me have always been a really big guilty pleasure movie for me, like the whole
Yeah.
entire genre. Like, and I'm talking movies like Volcano, like just absolute fucking
No,
nonsense.
keep going. Keep naming disaster movies, and I promise you, everyone you say is 100 times better than this movie. Keep going.
Daylight,
Yeah, yeah.
Dante's
Dante's
Peak,
Peak. Yeah.
San
San
Andreas.
Andreas is the one I was gonna bring up
Yeah.
because, like, I don't want to give the impression that I am above disaster movies. I will watch San Andreas every day of the week.
What was that one
That
we
movie
watched?
is actually,
Airport.
yeah, airport's nuts, yeah.
Airport.
But you know what I like about San Andreas? It has a third act. Like it
Also
has
fair.
like an ending of a movie. Like that is like bombastic and spectacular. My problem, my maybe my biggest problem with the day after tomorrow is that the disaster scenes are maybe 15 minutes of the movie and it's like 2 hours long.
Does take a while for it to like officially get going. And I feel like they could have done more. Because I do agree with that one kid who was like, I don't know if it was the one, I think it was the one star review where he was like, it seems to be he only cared about destroying LA and New York. And it's
Yeah.
like, fam, we like, he could have thrown in a couple of more in there. Like, really let shit hit the fan. Let me see Chicago get fucked up.
But like I'm okay if you even just destroy New York. It's just when you destroy New York, the people in New York have to do something besides hang out at the public library. Like that's
At,
they have to do
at the
something other
library,
than that once the disaster
you're
happens.
telling me them hanging out at the library dissecting Nishi isn't good enough for you, Jim?
Right. Right.
That chauvinist pig.
Exactly. Yeah. just like so bad. Well, listen, he's not a chauvinist pig, but he is in love with his
He
sister.
is in
That's the
love with
one
his
thing I
sister.
learned
He's
watching
not
this
a
movie.
chauvinist pig. So we did listen. We learned a little. That might be the science sense that that woman was talking about.
Yeah, and I
It
mean,
certainly
I'm
wasn't anything else in this movie.
I'm kind of on board with a couple of those one-star reviews. That lady who was saying they were calling her stupid. Like, you know what San Andreas didn't talk about at all? Fucking Nietzsche. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I want to see The Rock give somebody CPR after they've been dead for like 25 minutes. I don't want to talk about philosophy. Like,
I will say another thing that I liked about this movie. One scene of disaster mayhem. I enjoy, even though it is like very silly, like to just like, hey, we're gonna go walk here and I'm gonna get you killed. I do like
okay.
that scene when they're like walking on top of the mall. Like, and it starts with the one shot of like we see that they're on top of the
Yeah.
mall, but they have zero idea. I
Yeah.
thought that was like that was fun and that was like done very well.
Yeah, I will say there is a lot of great shots in this movie. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
a lot of
I
good
agree
shots.
with
Like,
that. And I do love that they did the whole vertical limit
yeah,
at the mall.
yeah, yeah, amazing. The vertical limit at the mall is so good. Like it's a lot of fun. So they're like there's like moments that are that still are like fun in this movie. I do agree with everything you said that it's that there's zero third act in this movie. There is a painful just amount of we have no idea what anyone's goals are in this movie.
Right.
And
Right.
all that stuff tracks. But I would be remiss if I wasn't going to defend that I just get a sick enjoyment out of these movies.
Yeah. No, and I do too. It's just like I think part of why I'm so passionate about this is because this is not the movie that like makes that argument for me. Like this is the movie that I think people see and they're like, "Why would I ever see San Andreas?" You know what I mean? Like these movies are all stupid. It's like, "No, I promise you, some of them are way better than this." Like
Like, yes, they
even
are
if they're
stupid,
not
but
good, they're way better than this.
in the best way possible. What
Right,
I
right.
love when like all of the twisters hit LA, but every time like it hits to a news reporter, they're just like, yeah, a twister touchdown. It's like, no, dude, like you're underplaying it. There's like nine twisters. Like every single like news anchor, whenever they would cut to anyone in LA, was just like, yeah, there's a tornado here. And we're like, no, dude, there's like 11 tornadoes. Like you are
Yeah, yeah.
vastly underplaying the tornadoes of LA.
Absolutely.
So it's just so funny. Um, I do love Jake Gyllenhaal. Love me some Dennis Quaid. So there is always that.
Yeah.
Gotta say, couldn't stand his wife. Like, are you crazy? Like that woman throughout the entire movie. Like when like his best friend's making a lot of sense, being like, "There's no need to go down there." Like, and he's like, "Tell him no," and she's just like, "Go get him." And it's like, "Bitch, what are you doing?" Like,
Right, right. Yeah, no, it didn't. Right, and that's why I hated her too, because it's like you are giving him very bad advice. Like
horrible,
you're giving him
horrible advice.
really poor advice. Like you're just like basically signing his death warrant.
Or yeah. And honestly, the most unrealistic part of this movie is when she's like, I'm gonna stay behind with this kid that can't be moved without an ambulance. And the other girl's like, I put in a call. And then the ambulance showed up. It was like, no one's ever showing back up. You're gonna die there with that kid. Like
Right.
shit's hit the fan right now. People are like all over the place. No one's coming back for you.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
No
No,
one's
it's
get,
just like
no one's getting that message.
and it's all like, you know what? And like I said, this is like a climate change PSA. What it feels like this movie is trying to do is be like it's trying to make people realize like the real life consequences that climate change might have, even though there's like, as we know from the future, we haven't thought about them. LA's literally on fire and I like forgot about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like none of it means anything to anybody. Um
Do you think this would work better if they stuck to a more realistic approach of what like the climate change could grow to be? Because it's like I know they want to do it to the like upteenth degree where it's like, yeah, you know how we know it got bad? Like there's like 13 tornadoes in LA. But like, do you think it would have made more sensibility to be like, no, it's LA. We know they always deal with fires. Make it be like the mother of all fires hitting
I
like
mean, yeah, this is like this movie's 1,000 times better if Los Angeles is just on fire and somebody's in Los Angeles just trying to do anything. You know what I mean? Like trying to get to school to pick up their kid. You know what I mean? Like 100 times better movie.
Do you absolutely I agree with that. I think this movie would be it from a better perspective if we lessen the amount of political nonsense that we have to jump through in this movie and stick it more to real life like sticking to boots on the ground, like the people most
Right.
affected
Right.
from this, and keep it to maybe like two, three, or four storylines in different parts of the world of people dealing with the ramifications of what this is.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said works so well about Titanic is that it's self-contained. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
unless the Avengers are showing up to save the day, it's really hard for you to make a good movie about the end of the world, right? Like, unless there's somebody who can do something about it, then like it's not interesting for them to just kind of like hope that things go okay, and then it's like, oh, thank God the storm's over. Like,
Just
like
like, what's our plan? And they're like, we're just going to make a line on this map, and everyone south of it, we just send them south, and everyone
yeah.
north, we just say, fuck them.
They're like, "What's your plan?" And he's like, "Well, I know I just told you everybody north of this line's gonna die if they go outside, but I'm gonna walk from Philadelphia to New York City."
Like,
Like,
I'm going to go outside. He goes, I've walked that distance before.
yeah, dude, do you know like how long would it take you to walk from Philly to New York City? Like at least like 3 or 4 days, right?
That's in like the
Like,
best, that's in like the best of temperatures.
right, and he's doing it in the storm that he just said everybody's gonna die in if they go outside. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid movie.
Not a great plan.
Not yeah. Hold on. I got something for that. I actually talked to Tony Stark about that.
Not a great plan.
I agree, Tony. Not a great plan. He's like, if you go outside, you'll die. But I've somehow learned to train myself to survive such wicked
Yeah.
temperatures.
Turns out all you need is a jacket and some gloves and it'll be fine.
Yeah, like he's just got like a really heavy North Face on. He's like, ah, it'll be
Right,
fine.
right.
It's like I
Turns
fucking
out jacket and some gloves, you can actually walk like across the northeastern United States and it's all good.
just yeah, it's pure nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But yeah, that's a it's part and parcel about all of disaster movies, and this one really falls like on the lower end of it. I won't deny and say that like I hated it, like as I get off on these movies regardless of how shitty they are, but I completely agree with every take that you've said about this movie.
Yeah,
I, I,
I was real mad when I was watching it. I haven't seen it and I was like, I don't know if it I'm pretty sure it did come across, but I was like not really digging it. I was really upset about this.
Yeah, and I mean it is exactly like you say. They for a lot of times there's some good moments of disaster action, and then a lot of the rest of it of just inaction of our main characters. And it's like we need some agency here. Like
Yeah.
there's like the one
And
little bit
they're
like you said where they're like, well, we got to get her, medication for her blood poisoning.
right, it's just totally fabricated.
Yeah,
It's none of it like it has nothing to do with the movie. Like it's not like we've talked about a lot of movies that like layer that kind of stuff into like the theme and everything, and it's just like somebody in a room was like, "Listen, there's nothing going on in this movie. We need to come up with like something to happen." Like, and they're like, "Well, what if she gets like cut earlier and then like she's got blood poisoning?" Like it's all so stupid.
it's like then there's like a couple of wolves from Central Park hanging around.
Right, right. And then there's some wolves that wandered their way onto the Russian penicillin ship.
Yeah, or also like it might have even been better that like even if you keep the storyline where like Dennis Quaid's like, I'm gonna go walk to get the kid, but maybe heighten it a little bit where they're like their conversation gets chopped up. So Dennis Quaid doesn't get to give that information to stay put to Jake Gyllenhaal. So Jake Gyllenhaal just uses all the things for that he's learned as a kid growing up with his dad in these
Right.
to find a way to like also start walking towards his dad. And they just like because they both like
Now you're
know how to
talking.
survive these elements,
Now you're talking because there's an end game.
we've got
There's
some
a
agency.
reason he's going there, and then also Jake Gyllenhaal is like doing things that are cool and like showing off his skills.
Yeah. And it also
Like
lets you
the
build more obstacles than just like we have to get medicine for her. But also,
right.
but like what also makes it a little bit more lazy. It's just like, all right, well, how are we gonna find this medicine? Well, lucky for us, a fucking ship just like sailed in the other day. Like it's right
Right, and
outside.
everybody knows every ship's got penicillin on it.
Yeah,
Like,
right. And
no, yeah,
we'll
and
never
that's
get lost on this ship.
that's another thing we've talked about is like you can use coincidences to get yourself into trouble, but you can never use them to get yourself out of
The
trouble in a
trouble.
movie because it's so lame,
So like
That's where you take away the agency that you're talking about when you just make happenstance solve the problem.
an agency, especially in movies like this, is key. Like we want to see our characters taking action in disaster to get themselves out of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up fires in LA, right? You watched Miracle Mile, yeah?
Yes, I did.
Isn't that movie like a trillion times better than this movie?
Yep.
Like so much better. And it's just the guy going through LA trying to find somebody he was supposed to have a coffee date with. That's all it is. But the
But he's just
tension
got
is like,
such agency.
right, the tension is ramped up because he's solving problems the whole time. He's moving, he's going places. He's not just sitting at the library hoping everything works out?
Yeah. I even look at another disaster movie like this that's like heralded as like one of the silliest ideas ever, which is the movie Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones, where it's discovered that there's an active volcano underneath Los Angeles,
Right, right.
which like might be the most insane premise I've ever heard of. I don't know how that got through so many lines of development to become a thing, but God bless the world for it being a thing. But
Yeah.
but that's a movie that Tommy Lee Jones is taking action throughout like every second of that movie.
Yeah, and again, the difference is that in those movies, people were making a movie. They weren't trying to solve the world's problems.
Yes, which is this movie was really trying to stake a claim in the climate change. And it was all nonsense. It didn't need to be there. Like, and
Yeah.
especially for stuff like this, like you don't when it like every movie is going to have an agenda. Every movie has something to say about something.
Oh yeah,
But the best
having an agenda is like a
movies,
key part of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't I'm like I don't say like this movie shouldn't have done that. It should have just done it subtly, which is what all the best movies do. Is they don't spoon feed you like, "Hey, this is the thing, this is the thesis, this is how I think you should think about the thing." The best movies pose the question, leave it in there with the characters, but they don't answer it one way or the other. They leave it up there for you to kind of like parse through and see like what you get out of it, like where it brings you from it. They're just posing the ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of agree with that. What I would say is, I think what the best movies do is they do take a stance, and they ultimately do make their stance pretty clear. But the way that they make their stance is through a person that has flaws who learns lessons about those flaws and eventually proves to you the stance. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the biggest problem with this movie is that Dennis Quaid from like literally the second scene of the movie is like banging the table for climate change and then he's just right. You know what I mean? And like that's the whole thing.
He's just like,
Like he
ha ha, I
never
told you
learns
so.
anything.
Yeah.
He never learns anything that I can relate to that makes your stance compelling. You know what I mean? Like it's just you just feel like you're preaching when you're doing it this way. I don't
Just
know.
like, why won't these politicians listen to me? It's like, oh
Exactly.
great, this storyline.
Exactly. And like literally, if that Dennis Quaid person was a character, like a real life person, I mean, he would still be saying that today. He'd be like, "Why won't they listen to me?" And it's like, I don't know, Quaid, I don't know. But they're probably never going to.
Please, Trump, can you listen to my climate change presentation? I did like seeing Noah in this and being like, "Oh, guys, don't worry about this. In like 20 years, you won't even have a job anymore.
Yeah, true, true.
Like this ain't your problem anymore. Take a break."
I
And I
do
think,
want to. We've
yeah,
we've kind of like touched on this stuff a little bit, but I do want to jump into some this or that.
okay, yeah. I was gonna say I've pretty much exhausted my thoughts on this totally spectacular, cool ride.
Yeah, yeah. Again, pretty sure they were talking about the limo because that's the only way they would come up with those words.
They're like, "Is that a sunroof?"
Is that what a ride? We can see the skyline while we're driving. Amazing.
The
No, what did
future
you say?
is now.
Spectacular. Um, I do want to do some this or that though. I
Okay,
want to go through some disaster movies, and I
let's
really want to
let's
put you
go.
to task here
Yeah, give it to me
because I
because
have a
I've
feeling that you don't enjoy this movie as much as you think.
no, I it is going to definitely be towards the bottom of whatever disaster movies you're going to throw at me.
Okay, so I am looking at a top 50 list on
Oh,
Rotten
all right, let's
Tomatoes
hear it. Let's
of
hear it.
disaster movies. We're not going to go through all 50. There's movies in here that I haven't heard of, and if I haven't heard of them, I'm assuming you haven't heard of them, and we'll just go like that.
You don't know my life.
Are you gonna take The Day After Tomorrow or 2017's
Know what you're going to say.
Gerard Butler vehicle Geostorm?
Jim, I'm actually going to take the day after tomorrow.
No
Yeah,
way.
I just showed Heather Geostorm because we were going through disaster movies, and it's fucking out of control. Not, it's nonsense. I love Gerard Butler, but the movie is fucking painful.
Yeah, okay. I haven't seen Geostorm. I'm a bit surprised by that
I
answer.
could give I could give the behind the scenes stuff a better score than Day After Tomorrow because that's the famous movie where Gerard Butler was injecting bee venom into himself. Went and sent
Right.
himself to the hospital twice on bee venom. Not once, but twice for bee venom.
So crazy. What was the point of that again? Is it
He
like some
was
anti-aging
Yeah,
thing?
he was like taking it to help his muscles recover from like hard stunt work. But
Oh
like
my
he took
god.
it once, it put him in the hospital, and they were like, "Don't do that again." And he got off and immediately did it again. It was like, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, man?
He's like, Doc, what do you think? I'm just gonna not do bee venom? What are you crazy?
He's like, Doc, you don't understand, but it's coursing through my veins.
Yeah. Do you understand how hard the stunt work on Geostorm is, Doc? It's not
Dude's
possible what
trying
you're
so
asking.
hard to be a DC villain.
I think you mentioned this movie. Are you gonna take The Day After Tomorrow or 1996's Daylight?
Daylight all day.
Daylight, yeah, easy.
Daylight, yeah, easy
Uh,
classic right there.
this one's maybe not so easy. Coming in at number 45
Oh
on the
boy.
top 50 list. Did you take The Day After Tomorrow or 2014's Pompeii, the Kit Harington vehicle?
Oh yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. Oh God, I don't know. I only watched Pompeii once in theaters. I would have to see it again. So right now I'm gonna go Day After Tomorrow.
Wow, dude, I am blown away. I really what
You
I'm learning
remember?
is I need
You've
to
seen
go watch.
You've seen Pompeii?
I watched the first like 15 minutes of
It's insane.
Pompeii like a couple of weeks ago and I turned it off, but it was through no fault of
Below,
Pompeii.
it's
I was just not in
absolute
the mood
nonsense.
for.
Also, it's
I'm
isn't it
definitely gonna
isn't
go
it?
back and watch it though.
I'm pretty sure also it's Paul W.S. Anderson, and already right there is a horrible mark in its favor.
It is Paul W.S. Anderson
Yeah. So
directed.
yeah, absolutely, I'm out.
I will report back to you, but
That
it has to be better than this
that
movie.
that
It
man made
has to be.
one good movie in his life.
Um, I, we're still only at 44, but I promise we'll get through this a lot faster. But we talked about this one too. Do you take The Day After Tomorrow or 1997's Pierce Brosnan, Linda Hamilton, spectacular Dante's Peak?
Dante's Peak, easy win right
Yeah,
there.
too easy.
That one's an
Um,
easy win.
This is another movie we're gonna do. I
Is
know
it?
because I
Okay.
saw it in theaters with you.
Okay.
But I'm gonna ask you right now: do you take
I know what you're gonna
The Day
say.
After Tomorrow or
Or Evans.
2006's Kurt
Oh
Russell
no. Oh
vehicle
God. God.
Poseidon?
Fucking Poseidon. Um Poseidon. I would take Poseidon.
Has to be.
Yeah. I would take
Has to be.
Poseidon. I would. I do like some mayhem at sea.
Yeah, and then again, it's like Titanic, where like it's contained, they have a purpose, they're moving towards something. It's a movie, you know.
Is that what it
Do
is?
you take? By the way, Poseidon came in at number 41 on the list.
Okay.
We're gonna jump
It
up.
came in ahead of Dante's Peak.
Yes,
Sacrilege. Already this list I hate.
like 3 spots ahead.
Absurd.
We're gonna jump over a bunch of movies because I don't know what they are.
Wait, was Pompeii ahead of Daylight?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude, get this list out of here.
Daylight was 46 and Pompeii was 45.
Who wrote this list? Paul W.S. Anderson?
I don't know. It's from Rotten Tomatoes, so I mean it's not the necessarily gospel, right? But Daylight was 46, Pompeii was 45, and Dante's Peak was 44. Those came in
Insane.
one, two, three.
Insane. Those they shouldn't even be near each other.
We jumped to 41 for Poseidon.
Okay.
We're gonna skip all the way up to number 36. I think this is the movie I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure.
I,
Oh no,
let's
okay,
hear it.
it's definitely the movie I think it is. Okay. Do you take The Day After Tomorrow or 2003's Aaron Eckhart, Hilary Swank, Stanley Tucci,
Oh no.
The Core?
Dude, when was the last time you watched The Core?
It's been a while.
It's fucking horrible.
It can't be good, but
The
it
day
has
I'm
to be better than this movie.
No, I'm taking The Day After Tomorrow, dude. The Core
Wow,
was torture.
dude, you're standing tall. I was not expecting this. I did
Right there,
not. I
I
don't
told
know.
you. I'm standing by it. But again,
I'm
like
gonna have to go.
the
I'm
only
gonna have to
ones.
go back and watch a bunch of these. Just on principle alone, I need to watch a bunch of these and then like tell you how I feel about
Okay, you do that.
it. We're not gonna go too far. We're gonna go. The core came in at 36, by the way.
Like, how does the Core beat fucking Daylight? I hate this list. I hate this list. This list is making me so angry.
I'm glad. Coming in at 35. We're not going too far for this one.
All
Do you take The Day After Tomorrow or the John Cusack Vehicle 2012?
2012.
Also directed by
I
Roland
wrote it.
Emmerich, by the way.
I would take 2012. That movie is this movie, but without the social commentary and just dialed up to 1,000.
Right. So much better is what you're
Yeah,
trying to tell me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That movie
I
is
think
insane.
that pretty much sums up all the things I
Yeah.
wish that this movie was.
That movie also has one of my favorite, like later on Roland Emmerich cliches, which is like our main characters are divorced and the woman has remarried, and by the end of the movie, the new husband gets brutally murdered, and then they just get back together. Like
Exactly.
he's done it in like 4 movies, and every time it blows my fucking mind. Like it's
Yeah.
so funny.
Dude, talk about a wet dream. That's such a divorced
Yeah.
dad's wet
Yeah,
dream.
like you could tell, like he got divorced, his ex-wife remarried, and all he wants is for that guy to die a horrible death.
He gets back the Rock. I don't think this is. Did Roland Emmerich do San Andreas? No,
No,
right?
no, he did not.
The Rock gets back with his ex-wife in that one too, no?
And her boyfriend is that scumbag lawyer who gets brutally murdered when the like on the bridge because
Dude, that is
leaves the kids to die.
that is such a weird concept that happens in disaster movies where it's like it has to be like every 45-year-old divorced guy's like fantasy that he dreams about at night. He's like, you know what's gonna happen? The world is gonna end, and I'm gonna prove how much I care about them. And then the new husband's gonna die in a bridge crash, and then,
Like when they're
and then
sitting
they're
there and
gonna
they're
be
like,
like,
"Don't worry, karma's gonna get them in the end." Like that's what they're
right,
thinking of.
right.
The
But like, not only is
suspension bridge.
Karma's gonna get the new husband, but I'm also gonna get the most epic chance ever to prove myself, and then I'm gonna get everything I want back, baby. It's like
In 20, have you seen 2012?
no, I haven't.
Please watch it. It is fucking absurdly insane. And
Yeah, I think I need to.
the way in which the husband gets killed for the other two to get back together is like it's literally out of control. Like it's insane. And I don't want to spoil how it happens because it's so fucking funny. So you should watch 2012.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna watch a lot of these honestly, because either I haven't seen them in a long time or I've never seen them. And after watching this, I need to kind of like cleanse my disaster movie palette a
Runs the
little bit.
palette. All right, let's hear
But
let's hear
yeah,
more of this shitty
that's
list.
mind blowing that that happens in so many of these movies, where it's like a
Amazing.
guy like wins his wife back,
Back.
like
Such a weird wet dream in all of these movies.
in the face of the San Andreas fault, destroying the whole world. You know what happens? I
I
get
get
back
the
with my
love of
wife.
yeah, I get the love of
Nice.
my life back.
And it's because I'm so awesome, even when the world's getting destroyed.
Finally proved to her what she
Uh,
was missing out on all these years.
yeah, right, right. She's gonna see how much of a mistake she made when I survived the apocalypse. She's jumping up to number 33. I'm pretty sure I know which one we're gonna take. But do you take The Day After Tomorrow or Armageddon?
Armageddon, easy.
Yeah. Um, number 31. Do you take The Day After Tomorrow or Deep Impact?
Deep Impact,
Yeah, Deep Impact, easy.
easy one.
Day After Tomorrow comes in 30th on this list, by the way.
Okay, crazy placement. It should be way lower.
Crazy placement. They call this a ludicrous popcorn thriller. There's not very much that's thrilling about this movie.
Like the thriller, like I don't agree with their assessment of like what they're considering a thriller. Like just because
Yeah.
there's thrilling elements in a movie doesn't mean it's a thriller is like Seven is like a thriller. Like something that's like
Well,
almost like a mystery is like a thriller. Like
a popcorn thriller, though, I think implies that it's a little more actiony. But moving on,
it's
though,
just an action movie.
I think this is one. This is an interesting one.
Okay.
Coming in 28th, this is another movie we've done. Do you take The Day After Tomorrow or The Perfect Storm? This might be the perfect storm for movies I really hated. Like,
I'm
how
gonna
do
say
I
yeah,
pick?
because you hated Perfect Storm, so I'm very
I
curious
did.
which
I
one you
did
would
hate the
take.
perfect storm. I did.
Which one did you hate more, Perfect Storm or this?
Um, Probably this. I think I hate this more than the perfect storm.
Wow, that's very interesting, Jim. That's
It's
very
tough though because like we always tend to like focus on story the most. There's a lot about the perfect storm that I think like fails like just at like a movie level. Like the cinematography in the perfect storm is not nearly as good as this movie.
yeah.
The effects, I know we're good in the perfect storm, and the day after tomorrow has the benefit of coming out like a few years later, but I would say they're probably not as good as the day after tomorrow. And then like the one thing about the perfect storm that I hated the most was the music. Like the music never seemed to fit what was actually happening in the movie. And that's like a really big negative. So I think I changed my mind. I'm gonna take the day after tomorrow over the perfect storm.
There we go. He got himself there in the end. I'm also
Yeah,
taking the day after tomorrow.
yeah, I'm with you on that one. Do you take the
The
day after
only
tomorrow?
time we'll be in contention there.
Day after tomorrow or the hurricane heist?
Never seen it.
Never seen it either. I'm taking it just on principle. Hurricane heist.
I do remember when I saw coming attractions for that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the stuff." And then it never came out anywhere to actually see it, and I've just never gotten a chance to like watch it.
Yeah. We talked about Volcano. I'm pretty sure we're both taking Volcano.
Oh, absolutely,
We talked about San Andreas. It sounds like we're both taking San Andreas.
for sure.
Um, this is an interesting one just because I think this does the social commentary a lot better. Do you take The Day After Tomorrow or Don't Look Up?
I'll look up that movie.
Don't Look Up. Yeah.
Underrated. Like that movie, it was hits the nail on the head so fucking hard.
Right. It's a social commentary, but it actually has like deep characters that are interesting to watch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, would I
Um,
wonder if they were on the list, or maybe you haven't gotten to them yet, so maybe I won't. I'll wait. I'll let you finish the list, and then maybe I'll bring it up if they aren't on the list.
I'm probably doing way too many, so feel free to like cut a bunch of this out if you need to.
I'm not.
But
I
I'm
don't
at
cut.
Don't Look Up was number 23, and there's a lot more we need to talk about.
Okay, speed run it. Speed run it.
Do you take at number coming in at number 20, Day After Tomorrow or Outbreak?
So that answers my question. I was just gonna ask, does it specifically have to be weather related
No,
danger?
I think
Or
Outbreak is a disaster movie.
because
Yeah, I
yeah, I
think
was just gonna say like, will movies like Outbreak and Contagion be on the list? Um,
Outbreak is. I don't think I've seen Contagion yet, but
so maybe we're only at number 20, so maybe we got time. Outbreak easily. That movie is so ludicrously 90s. I fucking love it.
yeah, it's another example of like it's not good, but it does the thing way better.
It does exactly
Uh,
what I want it to do.
we're both taking Twister, obviously.
You're fucking obviously, man.
Twister comes in at 18. I think we're both taking Snakes on a Plane,
Dude,
obviously.
fucking snakes. Like,
Coming in at
what?
16.
Like, I don't bemoan it being on the list, but I absolutely will it being at 16.
No, I don't know, dude. I think if disaster movies are supposed to be schlocky and
Head
that's
of
kind of like the
Twister,
fun,
ahead of Twister.
all right, probably not ahead of Twister. That's fair.
It's insane. It's
That's
absurd.
fair. Did Twister have a
Don't say
theme
it.
song written by the pop punk supergroup Cobra Starship?
Starship that we drove around and listened to for like 18 years.
Because I don't remember that it did. I don't
That,
think it did.
that was the night Danger Crew was fully born.
Yeah. I think based upon what we've talked about, we're both going to take Airport coming in at number 14.
Hell yeah, dude. What an
Yeah,
experience that
Airport is
was.
nuts.
That movie was wild.
um, I don't think I'm gonna take a stab in the dark and say neither one of us has seen this movie, but it's a pretty popular thing. Coming in 11th, do you take The Day After Tomorrow or The Day After?
The prequel?
No, it's like it came out in the 80s, and I'm pretty sure it's like a movie that's about like the day after like a nuclear holocaust.
No, I've never even heard of that.
It's supposed to be like I've never seen it, but like it apparently like really fucked with people in the 80s. Like it played on TV and people were like, "Oh man, like you mean this almost is happening every day? I don't know about this."
Yeah, I could see that hitting hard. No, I've never heard of that, so I can't speak one way or the other.
All right, we're gonna skip to some real heavy hitters here. The
Yeah, let's
original
get there.
Poseidon Adventure is down here in 12th, but fuck that.
Absolutely. Absolutely taking that.
Coming in at number 8, do you take The Day After Tomorrow or Twisters?
Twisters pulled higher than the first Twister.
Yeah,
Insane.
easily,
Insane.
easily. It
But
deserves
yeah,
it.
both Twisters absolutely ahead of Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm taking Twisters.
I
Twisters
don't,
is like
dude. I don't chase my fears. I ride them.
I ride them. If you can feel it, you can chase it, baby. Um, and then I mean we're getting into like the top 10 here, so it's like pretty silly to ask about if you would take The Day After Tomorrow over them, but let's just go to the top two. Second is a movie you mentioned, Contagion.
Hell yeah, dude. That movie hits so close to home, especially post COVID.
Yeah,
Filthy good.
yeah, and then I'll give you one guess at number one.
For best disaster movie,
Yeah,
is it Independence Day?
no.
It's not
Independence Day is not on this list, I don't think.
it's weird because like I guess alien invasions don't count as disasters.
I guess those are more like sci-fi, I would say.
Is it the Towering Inferno?
Dude, come on, we. What do you think the number one disaster movie is?
I don't know, I'm drawing a
Try
blank
and
on it.
think. Don't worry so much about the genre, and just think about the best movie you can think of that you might be able to classify as a disaster movie.
Titanic.
Yeah, right. We talked about it on the show. It's like a
Yeah, you're
disaster
right.
movie that
You're right.
transcends the genre. It's like
You're
the
right.
best disaster movie.
You're right. I was just going too hard. You mean it's not Earthquake? Fucking
Yeah, you're just so used to all these movies being bad.
yeah. Just you're so used to nonsense that I forget that like there's good movies that are
Yeah.
disaster movies at the same time.
And then that took up a lot of time, so I think we're just gonna stop it there.
It works for me. This is if we've learned anything, it is the disaster genre is just peak. Great. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
You
it
should
is
all watch them.
fantastic.
We
It
haven't
is.
seen one in a minute
Oh, like since you've seen one like recently, you mean?
since we've had one come out, right? What's like the last one you could think of? Also, I noticed you didn't say it. Does this one count as a disaster movie? And I only mention it because I know you love it.
Okay.
Everest.
Ooh, I think that is, yeah.
Was it not on that list?
I don't think it was.
Bastards.
I would,
Also, Jim, actually, we're forgetting about what is truly the best disaster movie of all time. That's not on
yeah, go
that
ahead.
list. Where was Vertical Limit?
Mm, I know this is gonna be a bit nitpicky, but I think
Oh,
Vertical Limit
I
is a
know you're
climbing
gonna be like,
movie. And honestly, Everest might be a climbing movie too. And I know that doesn't sound like a genre of movie, but I think it is.
happens on a mountain. We're calling it a climbing movie. Cliffhanger, get it out of here.
Yeah, although it's different. You're right though. Like Everest and Vertical Limit are both different than Cliffhanger in the sense that like Everest, like a huge national, like a huge disaster happens, a storm happens that kills a bunch of people. And Vertical Limit, I forget what are they trying to stop? I know they're like climbing to the top of the mountain with like bombs and stuff.
Oh, so like, so first the first expedition goes up and they push through a storm and they get stuck in the ice down there. And Bill Paxton and the one dude's sister are gonna like die if they don't get out of there. So they mount a rescue mission to go up and get them, and that's when they strip to get the bombs going.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean that's
But that's a
not
disaster.
quite a disaster movie.
It could be classified as one though. Like it, there's moments in there that can go for one.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you Everest. I'm not gonna give you Vertical Limit.
Like a
I
horse
will
shit.
also say Cliffhanger definitely doesn't belong. It's a
No,
Cliffhanger is
cliffhanger.
more Cliffhanger is closer to Mission Impossible than
Yeah,
it
no,
is to a
cliffhanger.
disaster
Definite,
movie.
definitely not.
Like there's a criminal mastermind doing God knows what in Cliffhanger.
John Lithgow attacks a treasury plane to steal like bonds.
Yeah, right. Who knows? I would put Everest pretty high on this list though, and I would definitely say it's better than the day after tomorrow. Like,
So all right, yeah. So all right, as long as Everest is going on there, I'm all right with that. I think that one deservedly so belongs in there because definitely fits the criteria.
yeah, pretty all-star cast too.
Yes, another Jake Gyllenhaal right there.
Yeah, Jake
Dude,
Gyllenhaal, Climatize, baby.
dude, got to climatize, my friend. And I think with that, Jim, I think we could climatize our way over to our star ratings.
I'm not playing the Uber drop.
Ooh.
This is the movie that's reminding me I need to make a bad version of the Ebro drop where he like tears into a movie.
Um, do you
I think
think
I'll probably
Roger?
do that when we're done recording.
Do you
But
think Roger Ebert though would want the drop?
I, I mean, who knows, dude? I don't know. My After the Passion of the Christ, my trust in Ebert is at an all-time low. So I will hold off any judgment. I am very interested to see what you have to say though.
Roger Ebert gave this movie 3 out of 4 stars.
Dude, insane. Me and
Describes
Ebert are never not on the same page these days.
describes the film as profoundly silly, but the film is effective and praised the special effects.
Effective at what?
Inconclusive. He doesn't go into detail.
Because I think I know exactly what he means when he says effective, which is it's effective at making you feel guilty about climate change.
If
Like,
there's one thing we learned from his Passion of the Christ thing, guilt, the guilt sin works on him.
right, right, exactly.
He's
So
like,
I don't know.
Jesus,
I
I'm
can't
sorry I
condone
let it get
this.
this bad.
Everybody has a slump though. Ebert's on a slump as far as I'm
He's on a
concerned.
slump right now, but it's all right. Everyone gets there. But all right, Jim, let's hear it from you. What's the final rating on the day after tomorrow? I can already feel you shaking your head. How low are we going?
I'm like debating. I'm trying to remember how low I've gone for other movies because I don't want to be too reactive.
Well,
But
if
I'm
you
gonna
if,
give
if
it.
you have a
I'm
movie
gonna
in
give it
mind you want to
one.
shout out, I can give you your
Yeah,
rating.
give me a shout out actually before I lock anything in.
What movie are you trying to compare it to that you want to see what you gave something?
I know I gave Rugrats way too high. What did I give The Perfect Storm?
Perfect Storm you gave 1.5.
Dude, that's so high.
So
That's
so the day after tomorrow has to at least either match that or be above that because
no, it
said it was
doesn't. It
better.
doesn't.
You said it was
It
better.
doesn't because I did say it was better, but by giving Day After Tomorrow 1 star, what I am saying is that giving The Perfect Storm 1.5 was a mistake. Not that The Day After Tomorrow deserves anything better than 1 star. No shot. I'm giving it 1 out of 5.
A 1 out of 5. That's what you're locking in on.
Yeah, I'm locking it in.
Oh man. All right. I am going to give this one 2 out of 5. Now, originally when I watched it with
Okay.
Heather, I was in on my disaster things. I was leaning in and gave it a threer, and I was dead set on going with a three. But as we were
Right?
talking about it and we dipped in and we really dove into the nitty gritty of it, you convinced me that my three was on the high end. It was way too high. So
Okay. You watched it with Heather like for this episode.
yes, we watched it for
Okay.
this. She watched it again because she enjoyed this one. We watched it again,
What
and I
did
still
what did she think of it? I'm curious.
she likes it. She's in on this movie.
I'm
She
not
ga- she
surprised.
she gave it up with the three also. She's a big fan of this one. And I'll still stand by the fact that I like my schlock. I'm still in on this movie. I don't hate this movie. I enjoy the schlock. But what we were talking about at a character level and the agency level and all of that stuff, you would convince me that my three is way too high. I can still give this movie a two, but still feel comfortable in my schlockiness love for it. And I think
Yeah,
that's fair.
and that's fair. And I mean, like, the main thing I want people to take away from this episode is that I love my schlock too. Like, I am the guy who gave Doctor Doolittle 2 a 4. You know what I mean? Like, but there's one cardinal sin that schlock movies especially cannot make. They cannot be boring, and this movie was so boring to me.
I'll do it. All right, so with a two from me and a one from you, Jimbo, that's going to give us an overall score of three. And we only have one threer. So we've only got one
Is it
battle to do.
American Wedding?
No, no, no. One battle to do tonight, Jim. So do you take the day after tomorrow or the 2004 epic Van Helsing?
Oh, Van Helsing, and it's not even close. Like Van Helsing is so much more enjoyable than this movie.
It's fucking insane. It's such an insane thing.
No, it's not. I promise you it's not. Van
I
Helsing is
pro
way more enjoyable.
promise you it is. All right, so we're agreeing to disagree this week because I fucking will never give Van Helsing its flowers.
Dude,
I
if
won't
I'll
even
tell you
touch.
what,
I won't even touch it.
if this movie had a scene in the end where all the people who froze to death in New York were in the
In
clouds, like
the
smiling
clouds.
down on Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal when they reunited,
All right, that yeah.
maybe I would say it's better than Van Helsing. Maybe.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Because
honestly,
man,
for that
at
cloud
the end
scene
of the day,
alone,
Van Helsing gets what it's supposed to be. Like it
that
gets that it's supposed to be silly and stupid schlock. Like
that
it's
that
not supposed to be trying to like move anybody or win any Oscars.
that cloud scene alone might be the closest avenue you could take for convincing me, but
Yeah,
I'm still not biting.
fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, you can have your opinions. That's fair.
Can I? You're so nice. Thank you. All right, so day after tomorrow, gonna tie with Van Helsing in the number 64 spot. Behind American Weddings. Oh no, I did this completely wrong. American Wedding is not above that one is put in the wrong spot. It is not above American Wedding. It is right below Shanghai Nights 3.5. And ahead of Eight Crazy Nights 2.5. So that's where
Interesting.
that's going.
Okay.
And yeah, so hanging out down in the mediocre boys. And I think that's a fine place for it. We don't have to take any guesses for next week because we already guessed it. We're doing Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. We've done the previous two Harry Potters. This one has a lot to live up to. The Sorcerer's Stone, right now sitting in the number 8 spot with a 9, and Chamber of Secrets sits in the number 17 spot with an 8. So all eyes on the Prisoner of Azkaban now to see where that one's going to land.
Yeah, I'm very interested because, as I've said, I think multiple times on this show, Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite Harry Potter movie. Uh,
Interesting.
I'm interested to see if it holds up, though, especially
Oh,
after I
Matt,
liked
did
the
you
first two
did
so
I was
much.
gonna say, and does that just give a potential spoiler for last week because for next week because you gave the Sorcerer's Stone a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Could
We'll
we
see.
could we be coming in with another Jimbo 5 out of 5, bridging the gap on our 5-star ratings? I've got two up on you right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I need you to shrink.
I do tend to be a bit harsher,
You're a
despite
bit
what me
harsher.
giving Doctor Dolittle 2 of 4 might imply.
Yeah, I need you to shrink that deficit so that we can get closer there. Do you have anything for the people? What was the last thing you jammed on?
I just watched the finale of season 2 of Severance,
Ooh, okay.
and man, oh man, is that a show! If you have
Yeah.
not watched it, have you seen it?
I have not. I'm not, me, I don't watch a lot of TV. People have told me it's like one of the best shows and it's something to watch, so it's on the list. But when I get to that list is anyone's question.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't know if I would say it's one of the best, but it's very interesting. It's very like intriguing, and there's a lot of like wild shit that happens in it. So I don't know, but the finale of season 2 was pretty nuts. It was like hour and 20 minutes or so. So it was like almost like a mini movie, and it was enjoyable.
This TV's getting out of control.
Yeah, it sure is. Especially when Ben Stiller is the director of it. Like, what are the odds?
It's wild. Is he really?
Yeah, I don't know if he's like the showrunner, but he's like a pretty big like creative force behind it, and he directed the last episode for sure.
Wow, that's pretty cool. All right, good for him.
What about you? You been watching anything? What'd you see
Uh,
last?
I have, unfortunately, it's not anything I've chosen by design. But so me and Heather do a, quid pro quo in our movie watching. I'll get a
Okay.
pick and then we switch it over. She'll get a pick.
And she'll
Um,
pick
and
Raising Helen. No.
and she, no, I don't think I'd be in such dire straits if I had to watch that. She decided that it was finally time for me to see the Twilight movies.
Oh boy.
So yeah. So we actually just before coming on to do this podcast, we just watched the third one, the Twilight Saga Eclipse.
Damn, you're
Uh,
in deep.
and my God, man, pluck my eyes out, feed
Yeah,
them to me, burn me at the stake. These movies are fucking insane.
yeah. I um I have a funny story for you.
Okay.
I'm gonna start with a question though. Do you
Okay.
think you could make it through any of the Twilight movies without making fun of them?
No,
Okay.
you
So
couldn't.
I dated a woman who we watched one of the Twilight movies, and before we watched the Twilight movie, she like sat me down and she said, "Listen, these movies are very important to me, and like do not make fun of them."
Like that just screams like you're self-conscious of the fact that those movies are garbage and like
Yeah,
you can't handle the fact that like some
right.
people might not like them as much as you. Because it's like,
Huge
listen,
red flag,
if
first of
you
all.
yeah, that is insane. And I'm not out here like if you watched the Twilight Saga and it has a special meaning to you because you watched it when you were a kid, it was big for you, and like you get that enjoyment out of that movie, awesome. I'm
I mean,
totally happy for you.
you know how old we are. They did not watch this movie when they were a kid. Let's just put that out
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
there.
Also, I mean,
Like,
yeah. If you're around our age, you didn't. We were in college by the time.
right, right. These movies came out when we were like pretty fully formed adults.
Yeah. But like, I mean, I'm not. I would never harp on somebody for liking this movie, for liking these movies, genuinely. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to make fun of the ever living shit out of them.
I'll tell you what, it doesn't mean that I'm capable of not making fun of them
Yeah,
because
no, dude,
they are so bad.
the first one and the third one, I was just laughing and like just ripping on it left and right.
Yeah, it's horrendous. It's like so silly.
They're so bad. I couldn't for the second one because I hated that one. Like, because like at least one and three are so ridiculously silly that like I can like not so much hate watch it, but just be like it's dumb entertainment and I'm making fun of it, but I'm enjoying like watching it with my wife because it's so stupid and I can just make
Sure.
jokes. The
Right.
second one was just pure torture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now imagine if somebody sat you down and was like, any potential enjoyment that you may get out of this is not on the table. Like,
If you make even one joke about this,
right, right.
it's to the
So
moon.
right. And like, man, have I never hated movies more? Like,
Yeah.
talk about, I would put those way below the day after tomorrow.
You're the like guy in the meme who's like sitting in the classroom and his face is about to explode because he needs to say something but can't.
Right. I just need to say how stupid Robert Pattinson is in this movie. I need to.
Like everything about the movie is just like so. And I think I spend like 90% of the movie just being like, this lore makes zero sense.
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. It's written. God knows what it is. Yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
know. It just when you brought up Twilight, that's like the first story I thought of.
And that's like the funniest thing. Like that makes it so much funnier to me that like you had to watch those movies and weren't allowed to make one crack about
Right,
it.
right. And I mean, like
Like
I was
that's
allowed to.
so
I could
funny.
have if I really wanted to, but there would have been
Yeah,
consequences. You know
yeah,
what I
exactly.
mean? Like,
Like there was implications in there if you made the
right,
jokes.
right.
But yeah, so that's what I'm jamming on. And now I have two left to watch, the two-part finale.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, like my favorite part about watching them is how there are good actors in there because it's like Robert Pattinson is a great actor.
Robert
Kristen,
Pattinson's the
yeah,
man, dude.
Kristen Stewart will go on to do some really good movies. Like she's not a bad actor. If you put her in the
Yeah.
right movie, she's a great
Right.
actress.
Like, what was
Dakota,
that Snow White movie she did? Or
oh
not Snow
God,
White.
Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah,
Snow White,
yeah.
right?
You have eyes, Huntsman, but you do not see. Like Dakota Fanning, like a good actress. So
Yeah.
what I
Yep.
find so funny about these movies is when I'm watching like good actors in these roles and then everyone around them having to play off of them and it makes everyone else sound so much worse because like they're just fucking awful.
Yeah. It's just the audience, dude. Like,
Yeah.
they're targeting it toward teenagers, you know, and
Well,
like
teenage girls especially.
teenagers are terminally stupid. Like,
Yeah. It's so ridiculous and like weirdly gross at the same time. Like the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm like, I can get behind Jacob and Edward, but I fucking hate the girl like more than anything. Like she's so stupid.
yeah, I don't know. That sounds like misogyny
Yeah.
talking.
Well, that's I'll be misogynistic on the Twilight take because she's kind of a bitch, kind of an
Yeah,
idiot.
yeah, yeah.
Stringing that poor J. Actually, no. I think the craziest thing about this movie, and this was one thing I said to Heather that I couldn't think of anything else like the entire movie, is that all of the Native Americans in this movie are played by actual Native Americans, except fucking Jacob, who's played by Taylor Lautner, who
Taylor
is very
Lautner.
white. And
Yeah,
all I
yeah,
could think about is having to be him on set playing next to Native Americans the entire time, knowing you've taken a role from a Native American and you are
yeah.
very much not Native American.
I'd be interested to see if that thought even crossed Taylor Lautner's mind. I think it's like 50-50.
Like, if I was him, I'd have to every time I got on set just be like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I think the part that's interesting to me is all the Native Americans are werewolves, which is like,
Yeah.
what are you like?
Also,
Is
yeah,
that it? Like, is that what they're trying to say? I don't
yeah.
know.
Also very crazy. That I was like, that was the move they went with. Like, I was like, everything about this movie is insane to me. Like, it
Yeah.
blows my mind.
And I'm assuming you don't know much about how Twilight ends.
I know nothing.
Yeah, the Taylor and Lautner things are only gonna get crazier, my friend. I
I
can't
can
wait till you watch those last movies and we can talk about it.
I can only imagine because he's been fucking crazy from the get-go. So if it's gonna get
Yeah.
wilder, like
Ooh, man, I don't think you could guess in a million years how his story's gonna end.
I can't wait to
Yeah.
see where it's.
Yeah, we'll cross that
I'll
bridge when we
yeah,
get there. I'm
yeah,
dying to see what you think of it
we'll
though.
do a reprise of this when I get through Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2 and I get the thrilling conclusion.
Yeah.
Emphasis on conclusion and not the thrilling part.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But
In the
that's for
meantime,
another
I'll
time.
just go watch Vampires Suck again.
Yeah, oh god, Jesus Christ. But all that info is for another time. Make sure you join us back here next week when we dive into Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And as always, we'll see you at the movies.